What's up, everybody? Welcome back to, I guess, the second after 2 weeks ago, but the Jers Way kind of DFS show on Monday or Wednesday. I appreciate Jers very much for letting me do this. Appreciate y'all, whether you're listening live and direct right now on Twitter or through YouTube or whatever you might be. I appreciate you and thank you for this opportunity. I was just getting things cooking on Twitter and was talking about a few things. Just dropped my phone. One, the Mississippi Grind, which I do want to talk about that movie, but also I don't know if any of these listeners are there may be likely from the state of Jersey, which I'm in Kentucky. That's Jersey South. But when I was in college, a lot of our fraternities formals were down in New Orleans, so we took that road trip down there. And you think you're close once you get to Mississippi, but it's like another 4 hours. It's really just awful. It's terrible. And gosh, we used to have them all. And I went there down probably 6 or 8 times down to New Orleans, and it's a straight shot through Mississippi, which is why I'm talking about it. But the first time was we all got it's like six of my buddies. We got some fake IDs, but these were like legit fake IDs, not that like your cousin gave you. These were like made by some dude who just made them. I don't know. And man, and had a good time and got into some bars, and some were turned away by the bouncers. But like shout out to the bouncer at some of these bars in New Orleans. The looking at your ID and knowing it's fake, but still giving it back to you is kind of like the bouncer saying, all right, look, I know it's fake. I just got to do my job, but I'm giving it back to you. I'm not throwing away. I'm not cutting up. I'm giving it back to you because I appreciate the hustle. And so shout out to that. So, and then Mississippi Grind. If you're a gambler, you like investing, anything gambling, check out the movie Mississippi Grind. It's a good one. It probably can kind of resonate. But we're not here to talk about all that. We're not here to talk about Mississippi, I guess, kind of. But I woke up today, or I got home today from work, just feeling gratitude. And gratitude is a great thing to feel, especially with DFS. We got an opportunity this week. We got an opportunity to win a GPP, make some money that could help pay bills, help pay a debt, or help go on a vacation, or do something to a house, apartment, whatever. We got an opportunity to do that. And I'm so bummed because we cannot see any sort of chat because of how the Periscope, Twitter video, whatever the hell it is, kind of how that changed up. So I'm kind of bummed about that, or I'm super bummed, because part of the joy within doing this is connecting with you all. And you guys are my buddies, you're my friends. And so, man, if we can't do that, I'm super bummed. And so hopefully we can kind of connect this weekend, get in some, DMs, get into mine, shoot some to Jers. I know I'll be talking to Jers about his picks. I really like his picks this week, or all week, but especially this week. So, feeling grateful. Hopefully you all out feeling grateful. Hopefully there's something today that happened to you that made you feel grateful, made you feel good, because you deserve it. I appreciate y'all for that. But let's dive in. And I'm going to talk a quick strategy, because likely if you're listening, because you are through Jers, that you're not maybe familiar with some DFS strategy. And so I want to say that something, unfortunately, maybe that's not so important this week, but will be important probably every week once we get into the real swing season, after January, after Kapalua, is that we want to find golfers, right? Not who are trending in the wrong way or not have plateaued. One way through betting and DFS, we find value within golfers is, within finding values that golfers that are peaking at the right time. So there's no real value, really, if we kind of know a golfer has plateaued or is, digressing. So we want to find golfers that are peaking at the right time. So if you use your models and you look at rounds from the last 4, 6, 8, 12, whatever, and you look at strokes gained approach for something, you can find trends. And we call that a rolling report or a trend report. And so it's so helpful. And this is why I, humble brag, going to kill it in the 6K range for a lot of tournaments, is you can find golfers who are usually not great, but are trending at the right times. They haven't hit their peak yet, so not a lot of people know them. That's why you get them at a low ownership, and that's why they're at 6K. But if you can find them peaking at the right time, well, then there's your buy low opportunity. And that's what we want to do, buy low ownership-wise, buy low salary-wise. Unfortunately, this week, because there's a gap in how golfers, their last tournament, we can't find that sort of trend. And so if you're using that, if you have used that strategy in the past, adjust it this week. because there's such a huge gap, and a lot can happen within golf within even 2 weeks, let alone a month. A coach could help find a golfer, find something on the range. Golfers say all the time, the back nine Sunday, I found something and I finished 30th that week, but then I found something that back nine, I finished 5th the next. So it can happen quickly. So just adjust. And the other piece of just advice, if you're getting started in DFS, is please be mindful. Be mindful and honest with who you are and what you do. Likely you're very good at picking golfers. You're very good at the handicapping part. But unfortunately, there's human elements that get in the way of us performing well. A lot of it is some biases, some rationalizations or justifications on how we can kind of construct our player pool. But also is that, like, humans are attachment beings. We love attachments. We want to attach to people. We want to attach to things. It makes us feel good. And so what can happen, for example, when, a justification or rationalization, we find on Monday is that, gosh, I just love this guy. And so we just build that weekly attachment to this golfer. Well, then we learn that, okay, maybe ownership is getting higher. And if we had no attachment, we might say, he's not a play, he's a fade. But because of that attachment to that golfer is in play with us, we end up owning him, and it turns into a bad play, and it makes our results very, very inconsistent. And one thing we need in DFS is consistent play, because you can have 6 weeks losing in a row in DFS, and still do everything right. So what we're hoping for is, like, you might have, with how GPP works, you want to finish in the top 1%. You're going down, down, down. Then you win a GPP, you're way up, and you might have a profit for, a year or two, or maybe even more. So that's the real goal, is to finish in this 1%. And so some of these human elements really get in the way with that. So being honest of, okay, am I attached to a guy I shouldn't, that strategy says that I shouldn't be attached with? Because we want to think of process over everything. So process that I got to find leverage, regardless if I think this guy is a bad play or good play this week. I kind of want to find leverage. That's the first step. That always has to be your first step. That has to be the first goal in DFS, week to week to week to week. And now you're going to, then go into your handicapping and find a guy that's good chalk versus bad chalk. And you want that to be consistent as well. But the more consistent you can be with your process, that is so helpful. And just make sure you got the right process for DFS too. It's very different than, and I'd say very, not lightly, it's super different than just handicapping, going through a sports book and picking a guy at odds, because you have to know people. One thing I really appreciate about Jers is, yeah, he's a great handicapper, but he also knows people well. He wouldn't know people well if he wouldn't be doing these things what he is today. So he knows people well, and that's going to serve him well, and that should serve everybody well at DFS. You got to know people. You got to know what are the masses thinking? What are the other people thinking? The competitors I'm in the GPPs with. So speaking of that, what are people thinking this week? Well, it has to start with me, though, and I'm going to share my screen and going to go in some ownership with, thanks to fan share. Let me get this cooking. Bear with me 1 second. All right. So we're going to go in some quick ownership, and this isn't the final projections of ownership. You'll see ownership right here directly to the right of their respected university. So you'll see the ownership right here. And I think Mike will put up one more projection later tonight. If you're not a fan share, you usually got to get a fan share. It's the best ownership there is. So Sam Burns. So what are other people thinking? I haven't seen Sam Burns mentioned barely at all. Surprised by the 20%, but I was kind of thinking, if he got down to less than 12, I might have to reevaluate some things with Sam Burns. Sam Burns had, a disaster in the Tour Championship, just played awful, worse we've seen Sam Burns in a while. So, but that's a month. That's a month from what it is today, or roughly. So if he was going to be at under 12%, then I thought, well, gosh, maybe getting the highest owned guy at 12%, the caliber of what Sam Burns is versus this field, gosh, well, that might be kind of a little bit of a bargain. And so I was going to then change the own to some Sam Burns, but 20 makes it too expensive for me with kind of the ownership. We got Will Zalatoris, who's going to be one of the highest owned guys. It looks like the second highest owned guy in the tournament right now. But I I'm saying Will is good chalk. So, it has some good course form. That's one of my favorite things within Fanshare, good course form. And the course history, not so much, but he hasn't played here that much. He got a very small sample size. One thing I love about Willie Z right now is that he's coming back into some of the ball striking form we saw in the late spring last year. And that's when Willie Z was just killing it every single weekend, Masters included. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'm throwing another humble brag. Peyton Manning throw a humble brag touchdown. Here it is. If you follow me on Twitter, I got Willie Z's buys and sells right all summer. I was off him when he needed to be off him. I said Willie Z was going to miss a cut. I forgot where it was, and I got like DMs of people getting mad, just getting so mad. But he ended up missing the cut that week. And so buy and sell Willie Z. So Willie Z is someone I have a good read on. This is the time to buy Willie Z because, again, he's trending into that form. We talked about the very beginning of the show is we want to find guys on a trajectory where we can reach their peak. I don't think Willie Z is going to peak this week, but he's on that trajectory. But the caliber of the golfer he is and the type of field we get, we don't need him to peak. He can win this tournament with his B+ game. So just consider that. Sergio, surprising, so low owned. Here comes this narrative. We talk about rationalizations and justifications that do not sustain itself in DFS, one of which is unquantifiable narratives. I mean, there's no data that backs how I'm thinking. A lot of people thinking likely, well, gosh, Sergio, first, you don't relate Sergio to Mississippi. That's the last place I think he might want to be. But Sergio, post Ryder Cup, all the energy spent, XYZ, throwing all those adjectives. He doesn't want to be here. He's just going because he's defending. Well, that is unquantifiable. And frankly, if you just flat out believe those things, your mind's working against you, not for you. So as a game theory person, let's take advantage of that. And if he's going to be 12%, let's take advantage of that. We saw how well he played at the Ryder Cup. We saw how he's kind of trending into this, and we know his course history. And you're getting him at 12%, where Sam Burns is closer to 20%. Is Sergio a better player than Sam Burns over Sergio's career? Sergio is, thanks to his Masters win, likely going to be a Hall of Famer. But anyway, so right now, I still think he is a better golfer. You're getting that ownership discount and a price discount. I imagine when Mike puts the ownership back up, Sergio may tick a little higher. And I'm not going to talk about all the guys. Sungjae, love him. Corey, don't love him. This is where we thought he'd be ownership-wise. And similar to Burns, not coming into this well. Yeah, there's a break. So if you kind of want to bet on upside, I'm not going to talk you off him. Will not talk you off Corey Connors. He can definitely win. But he just didn't play Corey Connors like golf at the end of last season. Mito, if Mito was 15%, he'd be my highest owned golfer share. It's just hard not to play him. Mito, not going to talk much about him. Keegan, you're not going to talk much about it. I'm going to go into a little stroke gain data as we get going, but I just want to show you the ownership. Surprised that it's up near 15% for Cameron Tringale. That's kind of interesting. Varner would love that. Anything, if this can get under 10, it's going to be great. Cameron Davis, his steam has really picked up as the week has progressed. He was a sneaky play. I thought on Monday on Drew and I show, not so sneaky at 16. Charlie Hoffman, I'm going to tell you what, is bad chalk. Charlie Hoffman finished tied 22nd 2 weeks ago at Silverado at a course that he should have thrived. And he is frankly lucky to finish that well at tied 22nd. If he couldn't get it done at a course that suits him, and I know this course is very similar, but I got 15% Charlie Hoffman. No, thank you. Go down a little bit. Seamus Power, surprised how low that is. Everybody's darling right now, Ortiz. I've just seen on Twitter today, everybody is hyping up and touting Ortiz, which he's one of my highest owned guys in DraftKings, and I expect Mike to kind of upgrade Ortiz maybe tonight. Wolf, super surprised that is still low. DFS, I wrote him up on the Fanshare blog. He's the epitome of a game theory play. Because what is everybody doing right now? We have a field with a lot of unknowns. Why is it unknown? Well, it's a weak field. So that includes more golfers that don't separate themselves from the field. Like if John Rahm was in this field and he was healthy and he's feeling good, he would separate himself. In a weak field, there's less separation. You also throw in rookies where we don't have much data behind. It's just a lot of unknowns. So our minds know, gosh, okay, this tournament, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of unknowns. What do I do with that? Well, I can't play Matthew Wolff because I already have enough unknowns. And when I invest money, when I bet money, it's kind of no one likes to lose it. So your mind protects you from it. It gives you anxiety or gives you fear to protect you to not lose money. So it's like, there's already enough question marks. I can't play Matthew Wolff. And the majority, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, their brains are doing that. So let's take advantage of that because we've seen Matthew Wolff's ceiling. We've seen his ceiling. Almost won 2 majors. Almost won the 2 U.S. Opens. We know his ceiling. And I know he didn't play well at the end of last year, but he gets a month off. And a lot can happen in a month off. I'm going to buy that upside. I'm going to buy the upside with the game theory piece of only 7%. Buy that. He's more talented than Ortiz, Grillo. If Matthew Wolff had just an average year, he would be the highest priced guy in this field. Yeah, just from his history. I mean, gosh, he's already a winner. And anyway, so he's a great DFS play. Excellent. And a good bet. I saw some numbers out there had Matthew Wolff at 70. Anything higher than 35 is great. Gary Woodland, that is creeping up. Super surprising. Aaron Wise is so vanilla. I do not understand the love for him. Yeah, I mean, he could win here. He models out great. I mean, he's probably going to finish 30th. But the love is, we know who Aaron Wise is. Just vanilla. That's what I got to say about the guy. Just vanilla. Kazire, frankly, if you give me 100 tournaments, Kazire is going to finish better than Wise. I like Kazire much here. CT Pan's very interesting. Bramlett, you know how I feel about Bramlett. Keith Mitchell's name's coming up. He's going to be higher owned. Pendrith, yeah, he's got upside. Let's just see. Look out for Ches. Before I get into strokes gain data, let's just see if there's any real surprises. Taylor Moore, that is a surprise in the 7K range. So who's 10? Who was that? Chad Ramey, another surprise. Mississippi State, though, might be a little bit of in the narrative. The Bulldogs. Let's see. Anybody else? Doesn't look like it. So I'm going to come off here and stop sharing my screen. Welcome back, kind of live and direct. So that's a quick look at ownership. It's going to be projected one more time. I think tonight Mike will do it. But I just kind of want to share a little bit more about some of my buys and some of my fades. So Mito, everyone is touting him, but let's point out why we're kind of touting Mito. He's someone who has played recently, and his last tournament, the ball striking numbers are great. Putter was not so great, but that's kind of how we know Mito. I mean, he gained a stroke putting, but he needed to gain at least one or more to kind of win that tournament. But anyway, you're here for the approach numbers. Gained 6.2 in the Fortinet Championship. Gained 2.6 at the 3M. The Barbasol, where he finished 5th here in Kentucky. Woo. Finished 3.2 on approach, John Deere. So he's a ball striking machine, and we saw that from Korn Ferry. That's what he's known for. That's what he should do well here. Turning in great. And I'm a natural contrarian player, so I don't want to play him, but you just have to. Keegan's kind of the same way, except for the trending part. He models out extremely well here. He models out, number one for me, and likely everybody is seeing that. And that leads me to another thing. If you're going into DFS, 10 years ago when we made our own models on Excel, that was such an edge. Now there's all these sites out there. You can make your own model real quick. There's too many sites. And so then you have to change your strategy because, okay, the models I'm creating, everybody is seeing the same data. So then if everybody's seeing the same data, everyone's going to get the same player. Then everyone's going to roster the same player. That's what's happening with Keegan Bradley. Keegan Bradley is going to be a top 10 on everybody's model. So then instead of just finding contrarian players, you want to incorporate contrarian data into your model. We saw at the U.S. Open, every one of them is like the British Open, it was going to play this way. It could play completely different. You did contrarian model, you got contrarian players, and you won the GPP. But I want to say, Keegan, I said this on a Monday night show. Keegan, we know who he is. He's been on the tour a long time. And early on, he won a major. He's on a couple Ryder Cups. He was a great ball striker. Never a good putter, but the broomstick ban that hurt him. But he's had plenty of time to adjust, and he just hasn't. And he's getting older. So if you're betting on a Keegan spike week, well, there's actually nothing that suggests that's going to happen right now. Not anything related to the trend data. And many people who are betting on Keegan are going to be hoping that he has an well above average putting week. Because usually Keegan has a well below average considering to the average PGA Tour golfer. But I'm wondering so everyone's focused on bad putters can do well here. Keegan, because he has such great, ball striking numbers and he models out so well. But I'm looking the other way and thinking, I actually think it's more likely, because of my trend says so, that the ball striking will get worse rather than the putter get better. And at his ownership, I like that wager that's going to get worse instead of the putter get better. Now, if he was 5%, I'd say, hell yeah, let's get all on Keegan. Let's just get all on Keegan. But it's more lucrative, the other option. The leverage is hard to pass up, and I find a lot of way to kind of bet against. So kind of moving down a little bit. And I'm just going to go over my favorite plays. Carlos Ortiz, not going to go over him because everyone's talking about him. Matthew Wolff kind of wrote that up. But let's talk about Kazire. Kazire, a guy who's bugaboo. What kind of trips him up is his off the tee game. And if you played him in the past, that's what hurts Pat. General Pat. That's what hurts him. Well, this course, it's minimized off the tee. The rough, you're more likely to hit green regulation here in the rough than an average tour event. It's not as penal, as we say. And actually, I don't know who says that. Somebody says it, but it's just not as penal. Penal. It's not as penalizing. All right. So coming through, well, what he does well, General Patton, what he does well is he hits approaches from 100 to 125 and 125 to 150. The majority of approach shots here at the Country Club of Jackson are going to come from that range. And Kazire is one of the best in the field within that. He's great on approach. And one thing that saves him his whole career is his putting. So instead of playing bad putters on this course, let's play good putters on this course. That's another way to get contrarian, but I really like Kazire. CT Pan's very interesting. But maybe my favorite play, and it's not maybe, he's my highest owned golfer on DFS, that's Joe Bramlett. Joe coming off a Korn Ferry playoff event. I don't think it was the championship. Actually, I think it was. He actually won that Korn Ferry championship a few weeks ago. But he's coming in trending well. He played well at the Fortinet. But just over the last 24 rounds, he ranks 4th on approach. He ranks 2nd in driving distance. Driving distance is key. One thing I really love is that with the driving distance, you get shorter approaches in. And with some of these wedges, he's actually really, really good and well above average. Obviously, with his distance and with his wedge, he does well on the par 5s. But green regulations gained, he ranks 20th. And if you do green in regulations from the rough, he's top 10. So this course where that doesn't matter as much, sign me up for Bramlett. Lastly, he ranks 5th in ball shot striking over the last 24. He's 7,900. If you just kind of changed all the names or made the names invisible and you saw those stats, you're thinking that guy needs to be 10K. He's 89K. He's low owned. Joseph Bramlett. Again, one of the things that's held him back is his putting, but I guess it's not going to matter much this week. It still will, but Bramlett is too lucrative to pass up with how he models and where his ownership is. That's just too lucrative. Somebody who's not being talked about at all is Ches. This is a chess course, guys. Very much a chess course. But I'm going to go down and talk about my second favorite play, and that's Matt Wallace. Matt Wallace didn't do well in the BMW Championship over in England. A little worried about that. But gosh, Fanshare, he ranks number 1 in their course sustainability ranking. It's kind of how a golfer performs based on what we need for the course. Matt Wallace ranks number 1. That's a great stat. Matt Wallace is right up there. But over the last 24, he ranks 12th in approach. Gosh, at 7,100, you get a 12th on approach guy. He's great with his wedges, specifically from the biggest differentiation of an average tournament to this tournament is we get about 16% of approach shots come from 100 to 125. Average tournament is a less than 12. You don't think that's a lot, but that makes a huge difference over 4 rounds in a tournament. Matthew Wolff kills it within that. He does pretty well. He's great in green regulation gain, great in ball striking, top 10. Sign me up for a low on Matt Wallace. The other is Bronson Burgoon. Bronson ranks 8th in my model over the last 24, 11th on approach. That same proximity stat that I said is so important from 100 to 125. Bronson Burgoon ranks 5th. And I'm so surprised. He's popping everywhere. And then the last, I'm going to call him sneaky play is Matthew Neesmith. Oh my gosh. We know what Matthew Neesmith is. He's a ball striking machine. He kills it with the ball striking. He's just a terrible putter, does not hit it very far, and is bad at par fives. But if he just has an average putting week, Matthew Neesmith can ball strike this course to death, and he's 6,600. Just silly. This is one of those times where I really missing the comments because I want to know what my buddies, my friends, everybody out there, I want to know what you're thinking. But damn, I can't see it. It sucks. It loses that connection. What I say about earlier in the show, I said humans are attachment beings. We want to attach to the people and the things. And man, we're not getting that attachment right now, are we? But anyway, I'm going to throw in a few kind of really, really low owned salary kind of relief guys. We call them the value plays. Martin Laird is interesting. Roy Sabatini is interesting. Sabatini is actually really interesting, and I wanted to play him. I just couldn't get to it. But he actually played. We saw what he did at the Olympics, but he played pretty decently at the Wyndham, which is his last tournament. And I say decently, he finished top 10. Gosh, I wanted to play Sabatini, but I just couldn't fit him in. Fratelli, look out. Russell Knox is my favorite guy that cheap. But a lot of the rookies I really like. Sig's been named, been thrown out there. Steven Yeager, he didn't perform well last week, and people touted at him. I bet he comes back. Chad Ramey, Taylor Moore is picking up a little steam, as we said. A buddy from my state, John Augustine, he went to Vanderbilt, but he's from Kentucky. He's from Owensboro. Shout out to Ridley. Look out for Augustine. He's someone who has been playing pretty well and has he's kind of like a Neesmith, where he doesn't hit it far, doesn't do well on par fives, but he can ball strike it to death. So if Augustine's going to do well on the tour this year, it's at a course like this. It's really, really like Augustine. Well, that's about all I got. We're coming up on 30 minutes. I appreciate y'all. This is the time, again, I usually going to answer questions if anybody had them, not that or thoughts, because not that I'm an expert, but we mutually share information, but we can't do that right now. But one thing I hope you're doing, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing well, something that you wanted to do today. And I hope you're taking care of the people that matter to you. And then allow yourself to enjoy this. We got golf tournaments starting tomorrow morning. We got an opportunity to make money or life-changing money, depending on the contest you're in. And doesn't that just make the week better? We have this opportunity to, starting Thursday, all through the weekend, to do something great. And that's just wonderful. And then we have this great community. So appreciate all of y'all. Good luck this weekend. Let's all stay in touch. Let's all root each other on, and let's win a GPP. All right, guys. See ya. One love.